For my brother's birthday, they went all out for me. They didn't even try. $2,000. Party versus one cupcake. I blew out the candle, packed a bag, and left that night without a word. Hours later, they were texting, asking where I went. My name's Jason. I'm 28, and I've always been the quiet one in the family. The one who didn't ask for much, didn't raise a fuss, didn't make waves. That was the role I was given. And for years, I stuck to it. Partly out of habit, partly because I thought if I just kept my head down long enough, they'd finally see me. Really see me. Not as the responsible one or the one who doesn't need anything, but as a son, a brother, a person who mattered just as much as the rest. But that never happened. And this year on my birthday, something inside me finally snapped. It started like every other family gathering. My mom texted me earlier in the week casually saying we'd do something small on Sunday. She didn't ask what I wanted, no mention of plans, no dinner reservation. No excitement, just an, oh yeah, we'll do something. I knew better than to expect much, but a part of me still held out hope, because 3 weeks earlier for my younger brother Ryan's 25th, they threw a full-blown bash, rented a party bus, blasted music all over the neighborhood, and even surprised him with a weekend trip to the mountains. Everyone posted photos on Instagram tagging him with big, beaming captions like, "Best brother ever," and "Can't imagine life without this guy." I smiled politely and the group shots kept the camera steady when I was asked to take videos and didn't say a word when no one thanked me for covering the catering deposit up front. That was always my role, the background guy. So Sunday rolls around. I showed up at the house around noon wearing jeans and a polo shirt. Nothing flashy, but I'd at least taken the time to shave and bring over some fresh pastries from the bakery near my apartment. My sister Emma opened the door, distracted and on the phone, barely pausing to say hi before walking back inside. The living room was quiet. No balloons, no decorations, not even a happy birthday banner. Just my mom in the kitchen pulling a single plastic-wrapped cupcake from the fridge and placing it on a paper plate. "There it is," she said with a tired smile like she was offering me a rare treat. "You still like vanilla, right?" I stared at the cupcake. The frosting was already sliding off the top and someone had jabbed a crooked candle into it. My dad came in from the garage holding a card, the kind you grab last minute from a drugstore, already signed in different handwriting by everyone from all of us. No note, no message, just a few names scrolled under a printed joke about aging. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't trust myself too. I just stood there, blinking back whatever this tight feeling in my throat was. It wasn't anger exactly. It was worse, like I'd spent years trying to be okay with being overlooked. And now I couldn't even fake it anymore. My dad clapped me on the shoulder. "Go ahead, make a wish. And hey, don't expect a parade. You're not a kid anymore." That did it. I looked up at him, then at my mom, who was busy scrolling through her phone like she hadn't even heard him. My brother was nowhere to be seen, probably still recovering from his birthday weekend. Emma had disappeared upstairs. I was alone in the kitchen, staring down at a cupcake no one even bothered to light properly. I blew out the candle without a word, picked up my bag, and walked out the front door. No one stopped me. No one even asked where I was going. I got in my car, drove back to my apartment, and sat in the parking lot for a solid 15 minutes before I could even move. It wasn't just about the cupcake. It wasn't just about this year. It was about every year. Every time I'd covered a bill without complaint, offered to help with moving, babysat nieces and nephews, driven 2 hours for holidays without asking for anything. Every time I'd made myself smaller, quieter, easier, because I thought that's what family needed me to be. Later that night, after I checked into a hotel a few towns over, I finally looked at my phone. One text from Emma. It read, "Mom's crying. Where are you?" I stared at the message for a long time, thumbs hovering over the keyboard, wondering what I was supposed to feel. Guilt, regret, a sudden urge to rush back and fix things. Instead, I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I let the silence settle in without apologizing for it. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I had to. There were no work calls, no family texts blowing up my phone yet, but because my body was still wired from the night before. I'd fallen asleep with that tight feeling still in my chest, the kind that doesn't really go away. It just dulls with time. The hotel room was quiet, generic beige walls, stiff sheets, the hum of the air conditioner, sterile, impersonal, but weirdly comforting. No family photos, no passive-aggressive comments floating in from another room, just silence. I checked my phone. Missed calls from Mom, one from Dad, a few from Emma, nothing from Ryan. Of course I wasn't surprised. He probably didn't even know or care that I'd left. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. I needed space. Time to think. For once, I wanted to sit with how I felt without having to explain it to anyone who'd already decided I was too sensitive or overreacting. Around noon, I went down to the hotel cafe, ordered a proper breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee that didn't come from a reheated pot, and brought my laptop with me. I started scrolling through my email and bank accounts. I wasn't just wasting time, I was planning. You see, here's what no one in my family really talked about. I had quietly become the financial backbone of that household. Not because they were destitute, but because they were careless. My parents had made a series of bad investments in their late 50s and were quietly bailed out by me more times than I could count. When Emma went back to school, I helped pay for her tuition shortfall. When Ryan moved out and couldn't make rent, I loaned him a few thousand to get on his feet. My name was on the utilities at my parents' house. I paid for the monthly internet, half the mortgage, though no one mentioned that during family dinners, and most of the maintenance for the family car Dad still drove. I did it because at the time it felt like the right thing to do. But what happened the day before made me realize something. They didn't just rely on me. They expected it. They thought of me as reliable, not generous. A wallet, not a person. And worst of all, they didn't respect me enough to even pretend otherwise. After breakfast, I made a list. I pulled up all the accounts where I was listed as the payer co-owner or financial backer. Then I started making calls and sending emails slowly, methodically, calmly. The car insurance canceled. I had a separate policy on my personal vehicle. Anyway, the house utilities disconnected from my account. I scheduled it to end by the end of the billing cycle. No drama, just clean breaks. The bank account I shared with my mom, the one where I'd been depositing a monthly helping hand, closed. I transferred the remaining funds back to my personal savings and sent her a polite email letting her know I was no longer in a position to contribute. The family Netflix, Hulu, and every other subscription that magically charged my card every month without anyone saying thank you. Gone. One click. Log out of all devices. By the time I was done, I felt lighter. Not free yet, but lighter. Like I was finally shifting the weight I'd been carrying alone for years. I stayed at the hotel for 2 more days. In that time, Emma sent 3 more texts. One said, "Seriously, where are you? Mom's freaking out." Another just said, "This is childish," and then finally, you hurt them, right? That one made me pause. Not because it was true, but because it was exactly the problem. I hurt them. They couldn't even imagine I'd been hurt first. On the 3rd morning, I finally responded. Just one message. Asked Mom what she did for my birthday. 5 minutes later, Emma replied, "Jason, it's not a competition." I didn't answer. Instead, I drove back to my apartment. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't feel like being the one to show up first. Tail between my legs, like I was supposed to apologize for finally drawing a boundary. That weekend, I didn't hear from anyone. But on Monday morning, I got a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short-clipped. "Jason, we need to talk. I think you're taking this too far. Your mother's really upset. We're family. Call me back." Family. That word used to mean something to me. Now, it just sounded like a card they pulled out when things didn't go their way. I didn't call back. Later that afternoon, I got a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Ryan backpack slung over one shoulder, looking like he hadn't slept in a day. "Open up, man," he said. "We need to talk." That was the moment things started shifting slowly, uneasily, but definitely. I didn't open the door right away. I just stood there staring through the peephole at Ryan like I was looking at a stranger. My little brother, golden boy, favorite child, the one who got the cheers, the weekends away, the surprise parties that were so proud of you. Speeches I never heard growing up. We were close once, or at least I thought we were until I realized most of our closeness was me helping him, covering for him, picking up the slack so he could keep coasting. He'd never showed up at my door like this before. Uninvited, unannounced. And definitely not when things got uncomfortable at home. "Jason," he said again, softer this time. "Come on." I sighed and opened the door just enough to lean against the frame. "What do you want?" He gave a sheepish half smile like we were still kids and he'd just broken a window with a baseball. "Look, I didn't know it was like that bad." I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know what was bad? That nobody could bother to plan more than a grocery store cupcake for my birthday, or that I was paying your rent 3 months ago while everyone else was busy throwing you a party bus bash." He shifted on his feet, trying to play it cool. "Okay, yeah, that was messed up, but like you didn't say anything." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it was. Of course I didn't. I said, "You know why?" Because I was raised in that house. Taught that if I wanted attention, I was being dramatic. If I asked for anything, I was being selfish. And if I ever said, "Hey, I feel left out," I was told to stop making it about me. He didn't have a comeback, just looked down at his shoes and scratched the back of his neck. I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. "And you still let it happen," I added. "Every time you knew you had to know." He didn't deny it. I didn't think it mattered to you. He finally said, "You always seemed like you were good, like you didn't care about that stuff." That hit harder than I expected. I was good at pretending at swallowing things, at being the one no one had to worry about, but I was tired. So tired of being the solid one so everyone else could afford to fall apart. I opened the door fully in motion for him to come in. We sat on the couch and I waited. Let the silence hang. I wanted him to feel it. The weight I carried in every one of those silences he'd never noticed before. "So now what?" he finally asked, picking at the loose string on his sleeve. "You cutting everyone off?" I shrugged, not out of spite. "But I'm done being used." He gave a bitter laugh. "You think they'll even notice? I know they will," I said. "Mom's already crying." "Remember?" He winced. "She's a mess. Keeps saying she didn't mean for things to be unfair. Funny how she only says that now." Ryan looked up at me then. Really looked. Not like a little brother to an older one, but like a guy who just realized someone he'd taken for granted had lines he didn't know not to cross. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Like I can't fix all of it, but tell me what you need. It was a rare moment of humility from him. I believed it mostly, but I also knew this wasn't just about me. It was about the entire house of cards my parents had built with me as the foundation. And now that I'd started pulling out, it was all starting to shake. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them you saw me walk out because I was tired of being treated like I don't matter. Tell them I won't be helping with money anymore. No more. Just until the end of the month. No more covering Dad's truck repairs or Mom's prescriptions or Emma's tuition shortfalls." He nodded slowly, the weight of that finally settling in. "And if they ask why I added, don't tell them I'm angry, tell them I'm done." He left without another word, just a quiet nod like he finally got it, or at least was trying to. I didn't expect him to change overnight. I didn't expect any of them to, but I knew deep down something had shifted. Later that night, I got a voicemail from Mom. She didn't yell, didn't guilt trip me. Her voice was quiet, tired. "Jason, I didn't mean for it to be so uneven. I thought you didn't need the same things, and maybe that was a terrible assumption. I'm sorry. Please come by or call. Just something." I didn't respond. Not yet. Because what came next wasn't an apology. It was denial guilt pressure. And then the real manipulation began. 2 days passed. No more calls, no more texts, just silence. Then, like clockwork, it all came crashing in. It started with a message from Emma. Not a text, but a long, dramatic email. The subject line read, "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't even have to open it to know what was inside. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. The first line, "I don't know what's gotten into you, Jason, but this isn't how families work." She went on to list everything I'd done, walking out, abandoning Mom, making a scene, and withholding support like you're punishing us. She said I was acting like a stranger, that our parents were hurting, and it was my responsibility to help keep the family together. My responsibility, not Ryan's, not hers, just mine. There was no mention of the cupcake, no mention of the years of lopsided treatment or how I'd subsidized half their lives, just a guilt-laced plea dressed up as concern. The kicker she closed with, "If you don't come over this weekend, I don't know if we can ever fix this." And I sat there staring at my screen, stunned, not by the words, but by how unsurprising they were. That weekend came and went. I didn't go. Sunday night, I got a text from Dad. Just 2 words, "Call me." I didn't. So he showed up at my apartment. He knocked twice, then harder. When I didn't answer, I heard his voice through the door. Low, firm, but laced with frustration. "Jason, enough of this. Open the door." I didn't move. He knocked again. "I know you're in there." I stayed quiet. Then he said something that made me clench my fists. "You're making your mother sick. You know she's barely eating. Like clockwork. Emotional blackmail." I opened the door slowly and stood there. We stared at each other for a moment. His expression was hard, like he'd rehearsed this confrontation. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't here to listen. He was here to win. "You done sulking," he said. That word sulking lit something in me. "Is that what you think this is?" I asked quietly. "I think," he said, stepping inside uninvited, "that this little stunt has gone far enough. Your mother's been crying. Emma's furious. And Ryan? Well, he's trying, but this is getting out of hand." I stood still, trying to stay calm. "You're talking about a stunt, but not once have you asked why I left." Dad scoffed. "Because we didn't throw a big party." "Come on, Jason, you're 30. You don't need balloons and confetti." "No, I said I needed to feel like I mattered. I needed someone to show me that I'm not just a bank account and a backup plan. That after all these years, I'm more than just the one who keeps things running while everyone else gets to shine." He rolled his eyes. "You've always been dramatic." That word again, dramatic. I laughed once, bitter and short. You know what? You can go. What, you heard me. I said you came here to convince me I'm the problem. You didn't come to apologize. You didn't come to understand. You came because things are falling apart now that I stopped paying for everything. He narrowed his eyes. You think this is about money? I know it is, I said, because the moment the bank shut off, the whole house started shaking. Dad didn't say anything, just stood there fuming. And then, in a tone I hadn't heard since I was a kid, he said, You think you're better than us now, huh? I looked him dead in the eye. No, I just finally think I deserve equal. He left without another word. The next day, the family group chat, which I hadn't left, just muted, lit up. Emma said she was disappointed in how I'd handled things. Mom sent a single message. I don't know who you've become. And then Ryan dropped, said he became the only adult in the room. Took me too long to see it. The chat went silent. The days that followed were quiet. I thought it might finally be over, but that was when the real turning point came. A letter arrived in the mail certified from a lawyer. Inside, notice of intent from my parents to remove me from the future estate plan due to estrangement and recent behavior. I sat at my kitchen table holding the paper, a cold shock running through me. Not because I cared about the inheritance, but because they genuinely thought that was leverage. They didn't know I already knew. I'd seen the estate documents 2 years ago when I helped pay for the lawyer. I was never the main beneficiary. Ryan was. They were just using it now, dangling the illusion of something I'd already been excluded from. Like I should be grateful for a future scrap. That was the final straw. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out a folder labeled receipts, literal and metaphorical. I had every email, every bank transfer, every invoice I'd paid for them over the last 5 years. I didn't gather them for revenge. I gathered them because I'd learned slowly and painfully that people will rewrite history if you let them. And now I wasn't letting anyone rewrite mine. I spent that entire night going through the folder. Every transfer, every receipt, every polite little thanks. Text I'd gotten after covering yet another family bill. I screenshotted bank statements, dug up, emailed invoices, pulled up texts from years ago that said things like, Hey, can you cover this month? Just until we get things sorted. I built a timeline organized, thorough, impossible to argue with. Then I wrote a letter, not emotional, not angry, just facts. I included totals. I noted exact dates. I listed the utility accounts still tied to my name, the car insurance payments, the emergency transfers when mom's credit card bounced or dad's truck broke down. I finished it with one sentence. Consider this formal notice that all financial support, direct or indirect, has been permanently discontinued as of this date. Then I attached everything and sent it to each of them, Mom, Dad, Emma. And even Ryan through individual emails marked with red receipts. I also CC'd the lawyer who sent me the estate letter with a short message. Appreciate the heads up. Please note I was never the intended beneficiary, so no need to threaten me with exclusion. I'm not interested in scraps. I've been the one subsidizing the empire. Less than an hour later, my phone rang. It was Emma. I let it go to voicemail. Then came Mom and Dad. Then a flurry of messages in the family group chat. Most of them, some variation of this is unnecessary. You're blowing things out of proportion. And my personal favorite, this isn't how families solve problems, right? Because apparently families only solve problems when it doesn't involve confronting their own behavior. Then Ryan texted me privately. I read it all. I didn't know it was that much. I responded simply, Now you do. He didn't reply, but I noticed he left the group chat later that night. The following weekend, I got a call from my aunt, Mom's sister. I hadn't spoken to her in years, mostly because we only saw each other during holidays and she lived out of state. But she'd seen the ripple effect, heard the family's version of the story, then saw my email, which Mom had forwarded to the extended family, with a dramatic caption, Look what Jason's turned into. I wanted to hear it from you, my aunt said over the phone. So I told her everything slowly, calmly. I didn't exaggerate, didn't try to spin it, just laid it out like a story. I'd finally decided was worth telling. When I was done, she let out a long breath. I always wondered why they leaned on you so much, she said. But I figured it was mutual. I didn't realize they never gave you anything back. That was the first time I heard someone in the family say it. She didn't offer a solution, didn't try to fix it, just validated it. That alone meant more to me than any fake birthday celebration. In the weeks that followed, things changed, but not in the way sitcoms promise. There was no big family reunion, no heartfelt apology in the rain, no group hug in the driveway while dramatic music played. Instead, the silence grew longer, heavier, and somehow more peaceful. Mom tried reaching out a few more times. She even sent a letter in the mail, handwritten, pages long. It rambled, half apology, half guilt trip. She said she never realized how much I did, that she thought I didn't mind, that she wasn't perfect but always had good intentions. And I believe that I did. But I also believe that good intentions don't excuse years of selective blindness. So I wrote back, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I won't pretend anymore. I'm not the unbreakable one, and I never should have had to be. I'm okay with space if that's what it takes for people to see me clearly. She didn't respond. I saw Emma once, months later, at a mutual friend's wedding. She walked up stiffly, held a drink like a shield, and said, "You look good." "You too," I replied. We stood in silence for a beat. Then she said, "Ryan's been different. More grounded. I think seeing the numbers finally shook him." I nodded. "I didn't mean for things to get so cold," she added. "I know," I said, "but I think the cold helped me see what was real." She didn't argue, just gave me a sad smile, then drifted back into the crowd. Eventually, Dad reached out again, not to apologize, but to offer a fresh start. He suggested we put the past behind us and come by for Thanksgiving. I declined. "I'm building something new," I said. "Maybe someday we can meet in the middle, but not yet." Because here's the thing, he wasn't offering reconciliation. He was offering a reset on their terms, the kind where no one talks about what happened and everything goes back to normal. But I didn't want normal. I wanted honest. And I learned that people who aren't willing to talk about the hurt aren't ready to rebuild trust. In time, I filled the space they left behind. I spent more weekends with friends who didn't treat me like a utility. I reconnected with old college buddies. I even joined a hiking group, something I'd never made time for before because I was always too needed. I celebrated my next birthday in a quiet cabin with 3 friends and 0 expectations. No flashy party, no drama, just a weekend of peace, laughter, and people who showed up because they wanted to, not because I sent reminders. That was the first time I truly felt celebrated. Not for what I could do, not for what I gave, but just for being me. So no, this story doesn't end with dramatic fireworks or explosive revenge. It ends with a quiet reclamation of time, of space, of worth. I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped repairing ones that only ever led me to places I didn't feel welcome. And I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. And that's worth more than every party bus, every banner, every "from all of us" card I never asked for, but kept pretending was enough. Now I don't settle for crumbs from a table I built. I set my own and only invite people who bring something.